Boom! Yes folks, Hume again. So in this video we're going to engage in a little discussion on something that is not necessarily directly mathematical, but it has a very serious bearing on the execution of the exam. We're talking about strategy, exam strategy. In this video we're going to talk specifically about the paper 1 exam, the multiple choice in the CSEC Maths, and following this in another video we will talk about paper 2. So exam strategy is important because there are cases where people could do the maths, they know what to do, they know how to do it, but then because of poor strategy or no strategy, they don't get the chance to express that within the confines of an exam situation. Alright, so we know what exams is about. You're under pressure. It is not as if you have the whole weekend to work out 2 or 3 questions. You have a limited time, and within that time you have to think, figure it out, write whatever you have to write. If you make a mistake, you have to correct the mistake, etc., etc. So it behooves the student to be very considerate, very aware, very cognizant of the time that you spend on each question. Now the multiple choice is pretty straightforward where that is concerned, because they have 60 questions in the multiple choice exam, and the time allotted to do those 60 questions is 90 minutes. So, alright, so how much time do you have for each question? Alright, so the time for the exam is 90 minutes. So, let me write it a little different. So you say 60 questions, right, is equal to 90 minutes. So if 60 questions, you're allotted 90 minutes for that, then for one question, it will be 90 divided by 60 minutes, which should be 3/2 or 1.5 minutes, right? 1.5 minutes. If you want to express it in seconds, that is 1 minute 30 seconds, right? Notice I put the calculation in a form that resembles an algebra equations. 60 questions equal 90 minutes. You want to find for one question, so you divide the left side by 60. 60 divided by 60 will give you 1, and you also divide 90 by 60 to give you the minutes. So in other words, whatever you do on the left side, you do on the right hand side. So by this straightforward calculation, we now know that we have 1.5 minutes for each of the 60 questions in your multiple choice exam. 90 seconds, 1.5 minutes. Good? So let me talk it in seconds now. So on an average, you have 90 seconds for each question. But this is where the thing gets nice now. There will be questions where you could finish in 5 seconds. There will be questions where you can finish in 10 seconds. There will be questions where you can finish in 30 seconds. There will be questions where you can finish in 45 seconds and 60 seconds. In other words, there are questions that you could finish in less time than the average time allotted for each question. Good? And this is where you have to employ a strategy now. Those are the questions you want to finish as fast as possible. Get them out of the way and move on. So in other words, every time you do a question in 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 15 seconds or 20 seconds or even 30 seconds, what you in effect do is buy some time for the harder questions, because there will also be questions where you might need a little more than 90 seconds. You might need 2 full minutes to do a question. You might need 2.5 minutes. And like we say, we stretch it a little bit. Maybe you might need 3 minutes to do a question. Maybe one of the harder questions coming down to the end of the exam. Good? But if you manage yourself properly, right? We are assuming here now that your preparation would have gone as well as you could possibly make it go, right? But that's a separate topic, a separate discussion, right? All else being equal, if you manage yourself properly, particularly in the early parts of the exam, then you actually buy some time for some of the harder questions later on. And that is all it is, you know. It is as simple as that, right? So in other words, if you get a question that requires 5 seconds, you don't want to take the whole 90 seconds. Typical example, you might get a question like the number of kilograms in a ton is ABCD. Right? You might get a question like the number of centimeters in a kilometer is ABCD. Right? Now, depending on how your preparation would have gone, or in fact, you might just know that there are 1,000 kilograms in a ton. If you know that, you see, that's not a question that you need to calculate. There's nothing to really calculate. You either know it or you don't know it. And if you don't know it, the better thing to do might be to take a guess and just put the answer and move on, right? So that's at maybe 2 or 3 seconds. So in other words, you save almost the whole 90 seconds on a question like that, right? How many centimeters there are in a meter? Now that is a question that if you don't know it off the bat, 100,000, then you could calculate it and it shouldn't take too much time. Because you know that there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter and there are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. So 100 in 1 meter, and then you multiply that by 1,000 meters in a kilometer. 100 by 1,000 is 100,000 centimeters in a kilometer. Alright? Now, you could do that depending on your level. You could do that maybe in 20, 30 seconds. You could buy yourself a whole night. And there are other questions like that. And if you prepare as diligently as you could, you will realize that, and you put yourself in a position to maximize the very short question, so you give yourself a little more time to do the longer question. The next thing, do not ever, under any circumstance at all, leave a question in a multiple choice exam empty. Leave a question undone, right? Some students, because of pride, maybe a little bit of false pride, I don't know, somehow they feel it's a bad thing if they guess an answer in a multiple choice. Well, guess what? The computer that correcting wouldn't know the difference between whether you know the answer or whether you guess the answer or whether you work it out. Right? So why do you just guess? If you really don't know, guess, say something. Right? There is a, if we want to use simple, straightforward statistics, probability theory, if you guess, there is a 1 in 4 chance that you'll get the answer correct. So in other words, if you guess 20 questions in a multiple choice exam, on average you might get 4 correct. Not 4, sorry, 5, right? 5 into 20 is 4, right? If you guess 12, you might get 3 correct, etc., etc. You might get a little more, who knows? Maybe you might get a little less. But even if you get a little less, it is much better to put something down and give yourself a chance of getting the answer by guess than to put absolutely nothing at all, and that way you're sure that you're getting it wrong. So in other words, if you don't put anything, your chances of getting it wrong is 100%. Because so little things like that, don't feel how if you have to guess an answer. No shame in the game, right? But for the things that you know, and for the short questions that you can do very fast, do it very fast. Buy time for the harder questions. And in so doing, you set yourself up to not be in a position where you're running out of time scrambling at the end in the multiple choice exam. Alright? So, as always, you know my encouragement will always be to prepare as much as possible beforehand. But given that, whatever the situation is where that is concerned, at some point you have to start thinking about the exam strategy. What you're going to do in the exam itself as part of the execution to maximize your mark, to maximize your performance, and to maximize the expression of whatever you know and whatever you could do. Alright? So that's it for now. Following this, we're going to deal with paper 2. That's a whole separate discussion by itself, so look out for that.